One day, Edward was in the shed where he lived with the other engines. They were all bigger than Edward and boasted about it. "The driver won't choose you again," said Gordon. "He wants strong engines like us." But the driver and fireman felt sorry for Edward. "Would you like to come out today?" "Oh, yes, please," said Edward. So they lit his fire, made lots of steam, and Edward puffed away. The other engines were very cross at being left behind. Edward worked hard all day. The coaches thought he was very kind, and the driver was very pleased. "I'm going out again tomorrow," Edward told the other engines that night. "What do you think of that?" But he didn't hear what they thought, for he was so tired and happy that he fell asleep at once. Next morning, Edward woke up to find nothing had changed. Gordon was still boasting. "You watch me, little Edward, as I rush through with the express. That will be a splendid sight for you. Goodbye, little Edward. Look out for me this afternoon." Edward went off to do some shunting. He liked shunting. It was fun playing with freight cars. He would come up quietly and give them a push. Then he would stop, and the silly freight cars would go bump into each other. "Oh!" they cried. "Whatever is happening?" Edward played till there were no more freight cars. Then he stopped to rest. Presently, he heard a whistle. Gordon was cross. Instead of nice shining coaches, he was pulling a dirty freight train. "A freight train, a freight train, a freight train," he grumbled. "The shame of it, the shame of it, oh, the shame of it." Edward laughed and went to find some more freight cars. Then there was trouble. "Gordon can't get up the hill," the porter called to Edward's driver. "Will you take Edward and push him, please?" They found Gordon halfway up and very cross. His driver and fireman were talking to him severely. "You're not trying." "I can't do it," said Gordon. "The noisy freight cars hold an engine back so." "I'm ready," said Edward. "No good," grumbled Gordon. They pulled and pushed as hard as they could. "I can't do it! I can't do it! I can't do it!" puffed Gordon. "I will do it! I will do it! I will do it!" puffed Edward. Edward pushed and puffed and puffed and pushed as hard as ever he could. And almost before he realized it, Gordon found himself at the top of the hill. "I've done it! I've done it! I've done it!" he said proudly. He forgot all about kind Edward and didn't say thank you. Edward was left out of breath and far behind, but he was happy because he had been so helpful. At the next station, he found that the driver and fireman were very pleased with him. The fireman gave him a nice long drink, and the driver said, "I'll get out my paint tomorrow and give you a beautiful coat of blue with red stripes. Then you'll be the smartest engine in the shed." It was winter on the island of Sodor. Peter Sam puffed nervously along the line. His funnel had never been the same since his accident with some cars. Now the biting wind was trying to blow it away. "My funnel feels wobbly," he complained. "I
I wish manager would hurry up with my new one. He says it will be something special. You and your special funnel, laughed the other engines. They were fond of Peter Sam, but his special funnel had become quite a joke. The winter wind grew worse. The rain came too, turning hillside streams into torrents, which threatened to wash the line away. Rusty, the little diesel, worked hard carrying workmen up and down the line. They were removing branches and leaves so water could flow away. But one morning, Rusty's driver brought bad news. There's been a washout near the tunnel. The track bed has been swept away. We must repair the damage immediately. The important work took longer than expected. As days went by, the weather changed. It became frosty and much colder. The workmen finished at last. Peter Sam was most careful as he took the morning train over the mended piece of track. Soon he approached the tunnel. It was short and curved, so his driver could not see right through it. Peter Sam was heading for trouble. There's something hanging from the roof, shouted his driver. Peter Sam came out of the tunnel a different-looking engine. He no longer had his funnel. Here's what hit you, Peter Sam, called the conductor, and he produced a thick, cold icicle. Then his fireman saw an old drain pipe lying beside the track. We'll use that instead of your funnel. At least it'll help control the smoke. Peter Sam finished his journey with the drain pipe wired to his boiler. The other engines laughed, and Duncan sang a song about it. Peter Sam said again and again, his new funnel will put ours to shame. Went into the tunnel and lost his old funnel. Now his famous new funnel's a drain. The teasing continued until at last the day came when his new funnel arrived. Sir Topham Hatt proudly presented it. Oh dear, someone squashed it, said Peter Sam, but Sir Topham Hatt laughed. Don't worry, Peter Sam. This funnel is something special indeed. You'll soon see. Peter Sam's new funnel had special pipes which made puffing much easier. I feel stronger than ever before, he hummed. Duncan was impressed. I can't understand it. Peter Sam just seems to stroll along the line. He makes work look so easy. The engines don't laugh at Peter Sam's funnel now. They wish they had one like it.
Thomas was cross. He had to work at the yards for snapping a truck in half. Now he has to shunt careful cars to meditate.
Why is this such a big deal? I was just doing what Oliver was doing. If he can do it, I can do it.
Oh, Thomas, I don't really know. Maybe it's because the truck Oliver broke was the most naughtiest one. You just broke a normal truck.
Rubbish,
said Thomas and flew away.
Sir, this is unfair punishment. You didn't punish Oliver. Why are you punishing me? It makes no sense.
It's a fair punishment, Thomas. It's only for a day. Anyways, I know trucks are troublesome, but you don't break ones that are like the rest. Now go to the yards now, or I'm extending the punishment. Got it?
Thomas left furiously. Thomas was shunting in the yard. He bumped the tanker to Horde and it rolled out of the yard.
I don't need that tanker. It's not gonna cause any problems.
But it did. It was heading to the Knapford Shed's turntable. It crashed into its ground, making the table stuck.
What was that? Oh no, it must be the tanker I shunted. It must have crashed into the turntable. I can't say I don't want to be punished anymore.
Then there was trouble. It was a pair of switch that malfunctioned and repeatedly switch.
Cinders and ashes. I can't move. The Fat Controller will find me. He will be very cross.
Edward heard the crash and came to see what was the noise.
Oh, hey Edward. You are right. I shouldn't have kept my temper over the limit. 'Cause now look where I am. I must be a very silly engine.
Yes, you are.
Said Sir Topham Hatt.
I noticed the yard was empty when the tanker crashed. I hoped in Edward to come and see who it was. You should stay in your shed the entire next day. You're a very naughty engine. It will take a long time to get my trust again.
Yes, sir.
Said Thomas in a sad tone. Thomas finished his last job at the harbor and went back to the sheds.
I just know the engines will humiliate me when I get to the sheds.
But they didn't. They respected Thomas for doing what they wished to do. And that made him feel a little better.
Best friends working hard, chuffing down the line. Merrily, 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 merrily on track and right on time. Chuff, chuff, chuff along. He's small but works so hard. Merrily, merrily.
I'm the #1 tank engine.
Thomas is in the yard. Chuff, chuff, chuff along. She's shiny as the sun. Merrily, merrily.
Hello, my friend.
Nia is full of fun. Chuff, chuff, chuff along. Who's that steaming past? Merrily, merrily.
I shall be pulling the express train.
Gordon's chuffing fast. Chuff, chuff, chuff along. Friendly as she goes. Merrily, merrily. Hiya, everyone. Rebecca's happy and it shows. Chuff, chuff, chuff along. Who's delivering mail? Merrily, merrily.
I'm off to deliver the mail.
Percy's on the rails. Chuff, chuff, chuff along. Big and red and loud. Merrily, merrily.
The brightest engine on Sodor.
James is very proud.
One day, Edward was talking to Trevor when Douglas steamed by. He was pulling a train of heavy coal cars. Come on, Edward. Stop gossiping in the sun when there's work to be done. Later, Edward spoke to Douglas. Trevor and I are old friends, and you and he have a lot in common, too. We do? Quizzed Douglas. And what would that be? Scrap, said Edward quietly. Douglas gasped. Don't mention that word. It makes me wheels wobble. It does the same to Trevor, replied Edward. He was being sent to the scrapyard, but the vicar and I saved him, and now he's really useful again. Even so, Sir Topham Hatt certainly does need another steam engine here. Aye, he does, and quickly. That night, Douglas was still working. He had taken the midnight goods train to a station at a faraway part of the island where only the diesels work. He was just shunting, ready for his return journey, when... That sounds like a steam engine, he thought. The hiss came again. Who's there? Asked Douglas. A whisper came. Are you Sir Topham Hatt's engine? Aye, I'm proud of it. Well, I'm Oliver, and I'm with my brake van towed. We've run out of coal and have no more steam. But what are you doing? Escaping. From what? Scrap. Douglas shivered. Then he remembered Edward's story about saving Trevor. I'll be glad to help you. It'll have to look, though, as if you're ready for scrap and I'm taking you away. Their drivers and firemen agreed to help, too. Everyone worked fast. No time to turn round. I'll run tender first. Come on. But before they could clear the station, they were stopped. Aha, called a foreman. A Great Western engine and a brake van, too. You can't take these. Aye, but they're all for us, said Douglas's driver. See for yourself. The foreman looked all over Oliver. Seems in order. Right away, guard. That was a near thing. We've had worse, replied Oliver, and they forged ahead. It was daylight when their journey ended. We're home, cried Douglas. Shh, said his driver. There are the works. We'll find a place for Oliver. Oliver said goodbye and thank you, and Douglas puffed away. The next day, Douglas told the other engines all about Oliver. Sir Topham Hatt will have to know, said James. Douglas should tell him at once, added Gordon. Well, here he is, said a voice. Now, what's this all about? Beg pardon, sir, but we do need another engine. Yes, sir, ventured Gordon. A steam engine, sir. Well, unless one is saved from scrap, there's little hope. But, sir, one has. Yes, indeed. And thanks to you, Douglas, he is now at our works. Oliver is just what we need for Duck's branch line. Everyone cheered. Now, Oliver and Toad are mended and painted in full Great Western colors. Duck and Oliver are happy on their branch line. The others laughed at first and called it the Little Western. Duck and Oliver were delighted, and so the Little Western it will always be.
If you should visit a place that has a lake in the woods and a beautiful waterfall, then you may also find two little engines called Skarloey and Rheneas. The engines know everybody, and everybody knows them. There are two more engines, Sir Handel and Peter Sam. They used to be called Stuart and Falcon, but they liked their new names better. One day, Sir Topham Hatt sent Edward to the works to be mended. A big surprise awaited Edward. It's Skarloey. What's he doing here? Skarloey was pleased to see Edward. I've been sent here for a rest, he sighed. I was put in this shed so that I could see everything and not be lonely, but I do miss Rheneas. He's going to be mended. I wish I could be mended too and pull coaches again. Just then, some workmen arrived. We're going to take you to the works now, Edward. Come along. Goodbye, Skarloey. Your railway's a lovely line. Oh, it is, it is. You've cheered me up, Edward. Goodbye. Meanwhile, Sir Handel was having trouble with some coaches. He tried to be kind, but the coaches didn't trust him. They were awkward and rude. There was worse to come. Some careless sheep had strayed onto the line. He's bumped us, screamed the coaches. Let's get back at him. They surged into Sir Handel and pushed him off the rails. No one was hurt, but Sir Handel limped sadly to the shed. No more work for you today, said his driver. How are we going to pull the visitors' train without an engine? What about me, sir? Skarloey, can you do it? I'll try, said the old engine. The coaches stood at the platform. I'm ashamed of you, scolded Skarloey. You might have hurt your passengers. The coaches quivered. We're sorry, Skarloey. The conductor blew the whistle, and their journey began. Skarloey remembered all the gates and stiles where he had to stop. The sun shone, the rails were dry. This is lovely, sang Skarloey. Presently, the line grew steep. Skarloey felt short of steam. Take your time, soothed his driver. It'll be better downhill, Skarloey said to himself. But it wasn't. His springs were weak, and the rail joints jarred his wheels. At last, a spring gave way. I feel all crooked, cried Skarloey. We'll need a bus now for our passengers, sighed his driver. No, pleaded Skarloey. I'll get them to the station or burst. James was waiting at the platform. Clanging and clanking, Skarloey steamed in. I'll do it. I'll do it. I've done it. James collected his passengers and respectfully puffed away. Everyone was pleased with Skarloey, but he was still worried. Old engines can't pull trains like the young ones can. They can if they're mended, Old Faithful, smiled his driver. And that's what's going to happen to you. You deserve it. Oliver had been to the works to be mended. Some troublesome cars tricked him, and the Great Western engine fell into the turntable well. Now Oliver was as good as new, but he was still worried about cars. I'd rather not use them, he puffed to himself. But the cars sang songs rude and loud. Scruffy, their leader, led the chorus. Oliver's no use at all, thinks he's very clever, says that he can manage us, that's the best joke ever. When he orders us about with the greatest folly, we just push him down the well. up goes Ollie. Henley, Thomas, Duck, and Percy were shocked. Be quiet, they ordered. But they couldn't be everywhere, and everywhere they weren't, the cars began again. Oliver's no use at all, thinks he's very clever, says that he can manage us, that's the best joke ever. At last, the engines gave up. We're sorry, Oliver, they said. It's really my fault, said Oliver sadly. I shouldn't have fallen in the turntable well. Next morning, Toad spoke to Douglas. I'm worried, Mr. Douglas. This disrespect for engines, where's it going to end? Who knows, sighed Douglas. I've got a plan, Mr. Douglas. May I stay here today and help Mr. Oliver? We are both Great Western and must stand together. Certainly, Toad, replied Douglas and puffed away. Soon Toad was explaining his plan. Goodness gracious, Toad, I don't think you should suggest such a thing to Oliver. But Oliver interrupted. No, Duck, Toad's right. It's really my fault. I must put this trouble right. I meant no disrespect, you understand. Of course not, Toad. Anyway, Driver says the same, and he's arranged it with the station master. Very well, Oliver, conceded Duck, but I must hurry. My passengers will be waiting. Good luck. So long, smiled Oliver bravely, but he felt dreadfully nervous inside. Oliver marshaled the worst cars 2 by 2. That's the way, Mr. Oliver, whispered Toad. And if you leave that Scruffy till last, then you'll have him behind you, and you can bump him if he starts his nonsense. Hold back, whispered Scruffy, and pass the word to the others. The silly cars giggled. But Oliver knew what to do. There was plenty of sand on the rails, and his wheels gripped splendidly. He gave a great heave. Oh, groaned Scruffy. I don't like this. Go on, yelled Duck. Well done, boy, well done. Oh, wailed Scruffy. I'm coming apart. And he did. Then there was trouble. Well, Oliver, so you don't know your own strength, is that it? No, sir, said Oliver nervously. Sir Topham Hatt inspected Scruffy. As I thought. Rotten wood, rusty frames. Maybe if we put you back together, you'll earn yourself a better name. Nowadays, Oliver only takes the cars when the other engines are busy. But they're always quick to warn each other. Take care with Mr. Oliver. If you play tricks on him, you'll never be the same car again. Scruffy has learned his lesson and says nothing at all.
Every engine on Sir Topham Hatt's railway love working hard. It makes them feel useful. It makes them feel replaceable. But some engines grow old and are not as useful. This was a feeling Henry was having. He had been tricked by Duck and was humiliated with sludge tenders. Oh, why would someone care for me now? I've been a jerk and now I'm paying the price. Now I'm starting to feel the edge of loneliness. Recently, Sir Topham Hatt had trialed two new diesel engines.
The diesel surveyed the shed.
It's time 7101.
We diesel
Take over. These steam engines spoil our picture.
rubbish.
Said Duck, of course we spoil your picture. We show what frauds you are. Our technology is really not holding well, isn't it? 199. How rude. Don't even think of saying that steam engines are just as useful as
We diesels,
if not more. Shut up, you. You're one of the
diesels,
who have sympathy for the useless locos, but I'm telling you, they aren't useful anymore. They are outdated, so tough and hot is dumb to think preserving steam is worth it. The engine's interrupted with a rude chorus of whistles. How rude, said 199. You deserved it, said 7,101. Henry was puffing tender front to Tidmouth. He felt very silly and sad. I lost my regulator, Driver said. It jammed wide open. He can't mend it, however, I still got plenty of steam. Driver said he will use my reverser, but it would happen after those
diesels
came. Now they'll laugh at me. Henry saw something at the signal box and came back quickly. The signalman popped out. For pity's sake, take the span cam away. It's failed, the limited is behind, and all it does is wait for its fitter. Span cam 199 said, deal with it, snapped the signalman, or I'll take my opener to you. Now then, 199 was terrified of this dreadful freak, and Henry pulled the train out of the way. The diesel didn't help, he just sulked. Henry pulled 199 and the train even with no regulator. He never stopped buffing. Oh look, there's your little Paul. 7,101 was struggling to pull the coaches. They would move and growled at them. You eat kettles, said the station master. Henry, is it possible to take him to? Henry agreed. Had a painful but proud journey. Henry took the freight in coaches to the destination. He had to take 7,101 while 199 was already being decided whether to stay. He had to say something to Henry, too. I'm sorry about my friend, as always rude. I wish he would be nice like me, but I guess he can't understand that. Please don't hate me because of him. I only have problems sometimes. It's all right, said Henry. Every engine has problems. I'm having problems too now with me getting old and losing my regulator. I do hope you're invited to the railway. You're the nice diesel I met yet. That made beer feel much better. 7,101 was bought and everyone was glad to hear it. He made growling noises that named him Beer. Thomas was very glad his name was used. 199. Let's just say time moving and catch on to his words.
Skarloey and Rheneas work on the railway that weaves round lakes and along mountain sides. Their coaches are filled with visitors, and the engines are proud to run the line, come rain or shine. The engines will never let their passengers down, but they are old and they tire more easily. Their drivers understood this and they spoke kindly to them. There's more than enough work for both of you on this railway. The manager is sending 2 more engines to help us run the line. Skarloey and Rheneas were pleased with this news and promised to give the new engines a big welcome.
Rheneas had to go to the works later for a long time. Although he was sad, was still glad he would see the new engine's arrival.
When Sir Handel and Peter Sam arrived, they found they had much to learn. What a small shed, grunted Sir Handel. This won't do at all. We're much too good for this old shack. I think it's nice, said Peter Sam. Huh, replied Sir Handel. What's that rubbish? Shh, said Peter Sam. That's Skarloey. He's famous. And then he whispered to Skarloey. I'm sorry, Skarloey. Sir Handel's upset now, but he's quite nice, really. Skarloey felt sorry for Peter Sam. Now, Sir Handel, said the fireman, I will get you ready for work. I'm tired. Let Peter Sam go. He'd love it. No, you're first. Sir Handel puffed away to fetch his coaches. He didn't like the look of them at all. Whatever next? Those aren't coaches, they're cattle cars. Woo! Screamed the coaches. What a horrid engine! It's not what I'm used to, clanked Sir Handel. He rolled to the platform just as Gordon arrived. Hello, who are you? I'm Gordon. Who are you? I'm Sir Handel. I've heard of you. You're an express engine. So am I, but I'm used to new coaches, not these cattle cars. Do you have new coaches? I see you do. We must have a chat. Sorry I can't stop. We must keep time, you know. Gordon was speechless. Clouds of steam filled the air as Sir Handel huffed and puffed along the line. He was still cross when they reached the top station. Sir Handel was hoping for a rest, but his driver thought otherwise. We'll leave the coaches now and fetch some cars from the quarry. Cars, snorted Sir Handel. Cars. I won't. So there. Sir Handel was about to cause a great deal of trouble. Told you, said Sir Handel. By the time workmen came to rescue him, Sir Handel was feeling rather silly. To make matters worse, there stood Sir Topham Hatt. His message to Sir Handel was brief and blunt. I shall talk to you later. Then he and the fireman left with Peter Sam. Sir Handel felt sillier still. When Sir Handel crawled home, he found Sir Topham Hatt waiting for him. You're a very naughty engine. I hope I can trust you to behave when you next come out of this shed. After hearing that, I'm sure Sir Handel will, aren't you? Sir Handel had been naughty, so Sir Topham Hatt made him stay in the shed for a while. Peter Sam was now busier than ever. He had to do Sir Handel's work as well as his own. He was very excited, and the fireman found him hard to handle. Anyone would think that he wanted to work, said Sir Handel, who was lonely and bored. All respectable engines do, replied Skarloey. Keep calm, Peter Sam, and you'll do well. But Peter Sam was in such a state that he couldn't listen. He collected some coaches and went on his way. But somehow, the faster he wanted to go, the slower the journey became. When Peter Sam finally fussed into the station, Henry was already there. This won't do, youngster, said Henry. I can't be kept waiting. If you're late tonight, I'll go off and leave your passengers behind. Said Peter Sam. Secretly, he was a little worried, but not for long. The conductor blew his whistle and waved his green flag. Peter Sam puffed happily away, singing a little song. I'm Peter Sam, I'm running this line. I'm Peter Sam, I'm running this line. What fun it all is, he thought, as he journeyed along the line. The coaches enjoyed themselves too. They were growing fond of Peter Sam. Every afternoon, they had to wait an hour at the station by the lake. The station has a little shop selling refreshments. The conductor, fireman, and the guard buy tea and cakes from the refreshment lady. At last, the waiting was over, and Peter Sam was sizzling with impatience. Beep, beep, hurry up, please, he whistled to the passengers. How awful, he thought, if we miss Henry's train. The conductor was ready with his flag and whistle. The refreshment lady was making her way to the train. Then it happened. Stop! 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 Wailed the coaches. You've left the refreshment lady behind. Bother! Groaned Peter Sam. We're sure to miss Henry now. The refreshment lady climbed aboard, and they started again. Peter Sam didn't sing anymore. Instead, he hurried along the line as fast as his wheels and his driver would let him. They arrived at the big station just in time. Not bad, youngster, said Henry loftily, but the refreshment lady was still cross. What do you mean by leaving me behind? I'm sorry, refreshment lady, replied Peter Sam, but Henry said he might leave without us. Then the refreshment lady laughed. You silly engine! Henry was teasing you. He wouldn't have gone without our passengers. He's a guaranteed connection. Well, said Peter Sam, where's that Henry? But Henry had chortled away.
The next morning, Percy dropped off mail sacks at Wellsworth Station. Diesel saw Percy. He oiled to a stop.
Your best friend doesn't have time for you anymore, Percy.
Percy felt sad. Diesel was right.
You should find a new best friend. A friend who has time for you. A friend who listens to you.
Diesel smiled at Percy. Percy wanted a friend. An idea popped in his pistons.
Diesel? Would you like to deliver the mail with me?
I'd like to, Percy, but I have to go to the Diesel Works. My friends are waiting for me there.
And Diesel clattered away.
Diesel said his friends were waiting for him. My best friend Thomas isn't waiting for me anymore. No one's waiting for me.
The next day, Percy was at the docks. He had to pick up a large parcel.
Flynn, the fire engine, will arrive soon. This is his hose. It is very important. Please deliver it safely to the Sodor Search and Rescue Center.
Percy puffed proudly. Diesel clattered over.
Flynn will be another new friend for Thomas. Then he'll have even less time for you.
Percy wanted to tell Diesel that he was wrong, but he knew Diesel was right. Diesel clanked closer.
Last night, I told my friend at the Diesel Works about you. He'd like you to visit. He told me to tell you that you'd be a very special visitor there. He'd have a lot of time for you.
Thank you, Diesel. Are you sure?
I'm very sure, Percy.
Then Diesel saw Thomas and Belle. He slid swiftly away.
Hello, Percy. That looks like a very special.
Percy was happy his best friend had noticed him.
It is, Thomas. It's Flynn's hose. Would you like to chuff with me to deliver it? I'm sorry, Percy. Belle and I are taking the children to the beach at Bluff's Cove. See you later, Percy.
Percy felt sad. Then Percy felt something quite different. Percy felt cross. Percy pulled up to a junction. The right track went to the rescue centre. The left track led to the diesel works. Percy wished and whooshed. Diesel's words flew round his funnel.
You be a very special visitor. You be a very special visitor.
Diesels can be devious. Diesels can be devious.
Percy wanted to feel special. He wanted someone to have a lot of time for him. Percy made a decision.
I'll take the left track. I'll puff to the diesel works.
Percy stopped.
Oh.
The diesel works was now right in front of him. His pistons pounded and his firebox flared.
Thomas says no steamy should puff to the diesel works. But Thomas doesn't want to be with me, and Diesel's friend does.
So wheel turn by wheel turn, Percy puffed closer to the diesel works.
Trembling tracks? I've never seen anything like this before.
The buildings were old and odd. They were dark and dirty. It was nothing like the steamworks, but it was very exciting. Percy felt special.
I'm not just Percy who pulls the mail cars. I'm Percy the Brave. I'm Percy the Special. I'm Percy at the Diesel Works.
A shape slid from the shadows. Percy knew who it was.
Diesel 10.
Hello, Percy. Diesel said you might come to visit. What an honor. It's been a very long time.
Hello.
Diesel's been telling me all about you. You're a very special engine, Percy. Why don't you hop in?
Percy whooshed and Percy wished. The words raced round and round his rods. No one called him a special engine.
Thomas doesn't think I'm a special engine anymore, or a special friend. But Diesel 10 does.
So wheel turn by wheel turn, Percy puffed into the diesel works and into the shadow of Diesel 10. Percy gasped. The diesel works was greasy and grimy. It had strange smells and new noises. And it was full of diesels. Percy's wheels wobbled, but his boiler bubbled bravely.
Hello.
All the diesels stopped and stared at Percy.
Welcome to the Diesel Works, Percy.
Percy's eyes were wide with wonder.
The Diesel Works is not grand and gleaming like your steam works. but we are happy to have you here.
Thank you, Diesel 10.
Then, suddenly from the shadows, with a bump and a bang and a clatter and a clang, rattled two diesels Percy had never seen before.
Hello, I'm Den. Well, what I mean to say is...
What Den means to say is that he's the boss, and I help him a lot. I'm Dart.
If you're broken, we fix you.
But you're a steamy, so we won't fix you.
Dart giggled till his side shook.
That's a joke, yeah? I like jokes.
Percy smiled. He wanted his new friends to like him.
I like jokes too. Shall I tell you one?
Go on then.
Percy had never told a joke before. His funnel fluttered.
What do you call a train that has a cold?
I think. Well, what I mean is... What he means is he doesn't know.
A choo-choo train.
All the diesels laughed, and Diesel 10 laughed loudest of all.
Oh, you're funny, Percy. Very funny. Come, tell us about yourself. We want to hear.
Percy felt very special.
I pull the mail cars. It's a
very important job, Percy. Very important indeed.
I've forgotten all about my very important parcel. I have to deliver it to the Sodor Search and Rescue Center. It's the hose for Flynn, the new fire engine.
Diesel 10's eyes flashed. His voice flared.
Dot, take care of Percy's parcel for him. You know what to do.
Percy was worried.
It's a very important parcel.
Indeed, Percy. Don't worry.
Suddenly, Mavis rolled in. Mavis was surprised to see Percy.
Hello, Mavis.
Hello, Percy. My rods are rattling. Den will fix me.
You should tell Sir Topham Hatt that you need a new diesel works.
We have. But Sir Topham Hatt doesn't listen to diesels. He only listens to steamies.
Percy was surprised. Then, an idea flew into his funnel.
Perhaps I can help you.
Diesel 10 snapped a smile.
I'd like that, Percy.
I can ask Thomas to tell Sir Topham Hatt that you need a new diesel works. Sir Topham Hatt always listens to Thomas.
That's a very good idea, Percy. Thank you.
Diesel 10 smiled a bigger smile. Percy pumped his pistons.
I'll go and find Thomas right away.
Come back soon, Percy. I'll be waiting.
Oh.
It's Thomas. You're the leader. Come on. Okay. There 2, there 4, there 6, there 8. Shunting trucks and hauling freight. Red and green and brown and blue. They're the useful crew. That's who. All with different roles to play. Round Tidmouth sheds and far away. Now Stanley's joined this friendly pack. But who's this coming down the track? Thomas has so many friends. The list is long, it never ends. James and Percy, Huff and Puff. And Emily, she knows her stuff. Henry, Edward, what a pair. Yeah. Toby, like I say, he's square. Gordon thunders down the line. Everyone's a friend of mine. That's right. Come on. Thomas, he's my number one. Shining in the morning sun. Working hard but having fun. Yeah, Thomas, you're the leader. The number one, Thomas, you're the leader. Let's not forget the narrow gauge, where small and strong is all the rage. So Handel, Rusty, Mighty Mac, whoa. Fearless Freddy at the back, Rheneas, and then Peter Sam, Skarloey, Duncan, he's my man. With Mr. Percival in charge, no work's too hard, no job's too large. Yeah, Thomas, he is my number one. Shining in the morning sun. Working hard but having fun. Come on, Thomas. You're the leader. Yeah, you are the leader, Thomas. You're the leader. It's Thomas. Jeremy and Harold, Rocky, Harvey too. Salty Davis, Percy, the really useful crew. Thomas, he is my number one. Shining in the morning sun. Working hard but having fun. Thomas, you're the leader. Thomas, you're the leader. Thomas, he is my number one. Shining in the morning sun. Working hard but having fun. Thomas, you're the leader. You're the leader. Thomas, you're the leader. It's Thomas. It's Thomas. Thomas, the leader. It's Thomas. It's Thomas. It's Thomas.